Welcome back to the next episode of TheCoolkarnis with Dr. H.K. Narahari. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
We needed some change, so we decided we'll change our positions. We are still understanding his journey. That part is not changing. We just changed our positions on the sofa.
वैसे ही बहुत चेंज हो गया जर्नी इसमें.
वैसे ही बहुत चेंज हो गया. हाँ, तो जर्नी भी शिफ्ट हो रहा है. एक रॉकेट लॉन्च हो गया, दूसरा रॉकेट लॉन्च हो रहा है, तो आई थिंक बनता था कि थोड़ा चेंज आ जाए. So in the last episode, we talked about a wonderful journey of how you grew up in a film in a film family. I could in fact actually call it film fraternity only.
Yes,
because your father and your brothers, in the purest sense, also were all in the industry at that time. So you started there, but in that you have grown up as someone with a deep interest towards science, and you quite literally became a rocket scientist. Mm-hmm. You started that journey. Your inputs and the work that you had done are seen in the Tejas aircraft, the light combat aircraft that India has today. So that's exemplary and very honorable in its own way. But then, just like everybody else that was who was going through that stereotypical journey in the 90s, you make your dive into the IT world as well.
Right.
Let's start from that point. How did that happen?
That happened because, at that point of time, there was this huge demand for year 2000, Y2K problem, right? And most of the Y2K problems are occurring on mainframe computers, big companies having mainframe computers, IBM 3090 kind of thing. And at that time, ADA was the only one which had it. TCS was the other one, ADA was the only one had it. So almost everybody who worked with me were headhunted. I resisted for about a year. Then 3 times salary was a little difficult to. That was the pull. The push was I was repeating the same work I was done again and again. So then that time I just took a plunge. What many people said, why are you leaving a central government job into private industry? Nothing much interesting there, but again I have to force my way of thinking in that industry. So they were estimating, the workload for people and all that, how much to, go and ask for money for some conversion, this and that, and so estimating the workload and all that. So I said, look, why are you guys going by some random heuristics? There are methods, technical methods. So I said, fine, I will spend some time. I spent some time and came out with something called function points analysis and feature points. Function point analysis is extremely useful for COBOL kind of based programs, which have a lot of input, output, and printouts and reports and all that. A very, very useful tool. So
you had done this, or this was research?
This was there in the world which they had never seen. So from my research training, I figured it out within about a couple of months. I knew such a thing was there. I went and learned it, and then I said, okay, I will train the people here on that. So that function point, that was only, you can say, interesting technical thing. Other than that, mostly it was man management. I was a good shepherd. After every project delivery, there's successful delivery. You have to take the team out for dinner and party and all that kind of thing. So other than this little bit of technical work, I forced them to do. Nothing much in that except, as I just said, I was getting promotions and fat salaries, not knowing what I was doing right.
and until now it was US and Paris and US and France, but now the number of countries that you visited started increasing.
No, that I was not keen on visiting. I was telling them, look, I am not going out of India. But anyway, for a couple of reasons, I had to go to South Africa and then Oman to talk to the client and all that. Other than that, I said, you send the youngsters. I'm not traveling. And the company I worked in is where my cousin's daughter Rupa, you know Rupa, and they were in my team only. It was a large project for Michelin tires. It was about 8 people. So I grew the team to about 130. My contribution was only, as a good shepherd, collecting all the guys and keeping them happy on Friday so that they show back on Monday.
And playing matchmaker also once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while. So that time, suddenly the company I was in decides that they should shift me to US. I resisted. I said, I'm not going. But then I was told by the president, you have no choice. You have to go. I said, there's always a choice. I am quitting. So I quit and joined another technical company called Digital Equipment Corporation, the one on whose mission I got my
Sorry, this was which company, the place where you were?
It was Information Management, IMR.
IMR,
which now is taken over by CGA.
Right.
CGI, sorry. So that I was working well there, happy there, associate vice president and all that. But sudden shift to USA, Anita was just about in the 10th or something. I said, I cannot go there now. So I joined Digital Equipment Corporation as another head of a group of people who are working on Unix based systems, a little more technical than what was the other one. So I was happily working there. Then suddenly the company was taken over by Compaq. And after some time it was taken over by HP. So without changing my table or chair, my ID is from digital to Compaq to HP. Three changes. At that time, my colleague from ADA, Dr. Prakash, said, look, General Motors is starting an R&D branch in India. First time General Motors is shifting R&D out of, not even USA, out of Detroit. So we are going to start a lab. Would you join? I said, yeah, okay, I'll join. As long as it's research, I'm joining.
So this is 2000,
2001 to something. Before that, I came to Australia. 2000, I think.
Digital.
From Digital. They had a branch here in Surfers Paradise, Gold Coast, which was very expensive. They want to shut it down and transfer all the work to India. So that was the thing. So I spent about, I think, 8 weeks.
So Digital themselves had something
their own internal they wanted to transfer it there. They had given option to these people to come to Bangalore, but they did not want. So the entire thing was transferred. That was my first visit to Australia, 2000s.
And what a place to visit and stuff.
But again, so we were seeing beautiful beach and all that. So first weekend we all go there nicely dressed and sticking to leg into the water, then find it's freezing. So we then realized, that is why the beach is empty. Nobody is.
And what was it, winter or?
It was around September, October kind of thing. It's too cold for us.
Correct.
Guys coming from Chennai and Mumbai and all that, 10-degree water is too much.
Yeah.
So that time I decided General Motors. But then they said, your interview will be in US. I said, I am not paying for attending an interview. They said, no, we'll fly you there, we'll host you there fully. And then we'll decide whether to recruit you or not. So that's how I again went to US after a long time.
So both your US trips have been taken care of?
Yes.
Jugaad or otherwise?
Jugaad or otherwise. First US tour.
Correct.
So I went there and then the interview process was, different managers, my own peers, who interact with me. One guy took me to breakfast, one guy took me to dinner, one guy to lunch. They were actually evaluating me. And each one in different areas. So they said the first area we are starting is manufacturing research. Not aerodynamics, manufacturing research. I said, as long as research, I'm okay with it. So that's how I ended up in General Motors. And 2009, I retired from there because it was under the Factory Act in India, which is retirement is 58. So that time, 2009, GM was in big financial trouble. So even though initially they had said they would extend me to 60, they said, no, we can't do that because a lot of layoffs are happening. You have seen that, from 200 billion to 140 billion turnover, from Fortune 7 or 8 to Fortune 20. So I retired. Then 2 months, 3 months, when you're young and working like yourself, your dream is when I retire, I'll relax and do nothing. But actually it doesn't work that way. You go mad sitting at home. So I said, what should I do now? I can become a teacher. Because wherever I was always training my team or somebody else on something, whether in IT industry, in function points, and here in different domains. And when I was in digital, the MD agreed with Indian Institute of Management, saying that I'll send one of my guys to talk to you about IT. And he came and only guy with the PhD there, you go talk to him. One semester I taught in Indian Institute of Management. Because he had agreed for it.
Right.
So then,
but let's come back to we'll talk specifically about the faculty part, because there's a lot that you did there, and but the automotive part is interesting.
Yeah.
So this is an American company that wants to set up research. Research is almost always the guarded part of any organization.
Yeah.
That is coming to India. Is this a sign of better relationships between the two countries, or is this quite literally a sign of India having the best talent?
You can say, I wouldn't say best talent, same level of talent at probably 1/5 or 1/6 the salary. Part of it. The other part is they were finding that the General Motors was not able to sell cars in India. And the understanding was that we don't understand the market, what Indians want. So if we have R&D there, we will be able to understand. So then the management decided that alone cannot fund the entire project. You will also have to do work for the global setup. Whichever part of GM anywhere in the world has a problem, you have to address it.
Address them. Okay.
So in that case, they said, okay, these 4 or 5 group areas will work in India. Unique. We are not repeating anything done in US.
And for our viewers' understanding, you said it's not about you said it's about manufacturing design, but it's not about aerodynamics, is it? Is that what you said? What does that mean in context of a car, especially?
In the context of a car, for example, aerodynamics plays a large part on the car's design at high speeds. Okay, if you see the older generation cars, they were all blunt nosed and this. So in the 70s, when the Middle East increased the oil prices, the fuel consumption became an issue, and then decided aerodynamics can play a very big part. Even though the shape and the aerodynamics of it was researched by a professor in Ann Arbor only in 40s, 45, 50s. Yeah, with different front shape, back shape, none research done. So when the aerodynamics became a big popular, but they said there was a dire need for work in manufacturing research. Manufacturing lab in General Motors had 2 parts. One is the revenue management part, in the sense in the management, in the manufacturing revenue management, and actual plant floor problems.
So when you say revenue management, is it more in terms of how do you, is it essentially procurement where you procure for lower price?
Advertising and all that, giving what you can say, discounts, incentives, all that. So one of my team members worked on procuring steel. GM those days was procuring steel for about $2 billion plus annually. So we applied the computer science based optimization techniques to decide how much steel, what grade from which company. It's a classical optimization problem where you have 10 different parts to buy and 20 different. So the manufacturing research area, as I said, had 2 parts: revenue management, purchase. So we used the classical optimization technique, me and my team member, where n number of parts, x number of vendors and distances and travel and everything, and come out with a plan of buying. So the purchase,
and this is for every part of the world. So for example, your technique approach in India would be different from a US, from a China.
Yes. For example, we started only with the US manufacturing setup.
Okay.
But the steel is coming from different parts of US and all that. So we have to take the transportation cost and their profit and this. Optimization, they said, look, we have been buying steel from decades now. What the hell you guys are going to do? So we said we'll do a pilot project. So this guy called Pankaj Dayama, my team member, he did a small project and showed that you could, if you had done this way, you would have saved $100 million. You know what happened next? They said, transfer these guys to the purchase department. And he said, you do that, I quit. I want to be in R&D.
I give you ideas, you figure out how to implement.
Yeah. So that is, then of course we transferred the knowledge and say, this is what it is, we give you the program, you just run it. There's nothing, magic in that. Another problem they had was, they said this may look like a mundane problem to you, but it's very, very important in a plant floor. When a robot stops because of spare part, the entire line stops. So that means those factories produce a car every minute. So 60 jobs per hour is the standard production rate. So 10 minutes stop is 10 cars gone.
Yes, right.
Plus, I have to redo the whole thing. If one stops, all the thing stops. It's a chain, right?
Correct.
So that means I have to pay overtime for everybody else. So why do the robots stop? Spare parts wear out. So I said, what is the problem? You have enough spares. They said, no. The problem we are facing is because an automobile has close to 6,000 to 8,000 spot welds. These are all robot welded. And each one is a different place. And we farm it out to different companies to design those spot welds. How and where. And they all come with their own designs for robots. So what has happened is we have something like 40 different types of robots. And we have to store spares for everything. So that is the problem. Can you guys do something? So we said, why do you have to have 40 different robots? So I gave them an example of, supposedly Newton in his door had two small bones, one for the dog, one for the cat. Smaller one for the cat, bigger one for the dog. So he could have had the same thing for cat and dog. The example I gave them, they said, how is this possible? So another team worked on way to design everything automated. So spot welds are shown. This will decide, okay, this is the weld gun end effector. The robot is same. End effector is the one which goes and does. So big one, small one, all that. So we said we can reduce from X number whatever to this many, and only that many spares you need to have. So then this was very good. So they said we'll patent it. So that patent happened in my name and my team's name. So this kind of work, what you wouldn't call it a big intellectual thing, but very, very useful for the plant.
Very effective.
Yeah. Because they said, okay, this alone will justify your existence, team's existence.
Because that's the amount you're saving, and that can fund you in a way.
So much of headache for the plant floor fellow.
Correct.
And how do you do it and all that? So we say rate tracing method, this and that. We don't do it.
Just get it done.
Done. So this kind of work, and then also this purchase and all that. So that work was going on.
Was this I know that your background was quite literally into rocket science and aerodynamics, whereas here you're trying to solve factory problems. What excited you in this? Was it the fact that you were solving problems? Was that the exciting part, or was it something new that you're learning?
Something new. At this point, I think I am reminded of a quartet from an author called Mankutimmanakagga, a book called Mankutimmanakagga. And this also came as a song in some other thing. It says, Baduku Jataka Bandi. Okay, and Vidhi Avana Saheba. ಕುದುರೆ ನೀನು ಪಯಣ ಅವನು ಹೇಳಿದ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಮದುವೆಗೋ ಮಸಣಕ್ಕೋ ಅವನು ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ.
ಅವನು ಯಾರು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ? ಗಾಡ್. ಓಕೆ.
ಸೊ ಕಾಲ್ ಕುಸಿದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಣ್ಣಿದೆ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಲೈಫ್ is decided by somebody else. I thought I am deciding, not really. So this was something which came my way. So full-fledged into it.
Get into it.
Do whatever you can. And this is how, I think finally we got 3 patents out of that, US patents, international US patents. And, one plaque with a silver dollar and all that thing.
But again, an ignorant question, but what does it mean in the scheme of things to have a patent? The patent is co-owned, but it's owned by GM.
By GM, yes. Okay. Always owned by GM.
So it's a recognition, or is there any commercial aspect?
So that if anybody else uses this technique, they'll have to pay money for GM.
For GM, you don't get anything.
No, I don't get anything.
Okay.
Because I am already paid. No? So in patent intellectual property terminology, it's called work for hire. So if they pay you even 10 rupees and you come with a fantastic idea, that idea is theirs.
Correct.
Theirs.
Yeah.
So in our case, it is proving the existence or the raison d'etre of our team.
How big was the team?
Team initially was about 15. Then we split into 7. So my deputy, it was a flat organization: director, lab group manager, scientist. So I had a right hand guy. He took over.
You were the director?
I report directly to the director.
Director. Okay, fair.
And there is my director also in Warren, in Detroit suburb, manufacturing head. Named Steve Holland. And in this case, what happened, there is a lot of your travel to US. Every quarter they would come here or we would go there to interact with them and all this. So a lot of travel to US on that count. And towards the end, when GM started running into financial rough weather, they said we cannot extend it beyond 58, but 58, like everybody else, I said okay, retired.
And this is where that 1 year bit you in a way?
Yes, bit me in a way. I tried to do something because, as I said, my father had done an affidavit saying this has happened by mistake and change and all that.
So he did it?
He has done it. It's still there with me. At that time, I went and talked to the HR person. Then he gave me an example. Sir, have you heard of General V.K. Singh, who is now the minister anyway? I said yes. So he had the same issue. He fought, went up to Supreme Court. उसका कुछ नहीं हुआ. आप क्या तीर मार लोगे यार? Chief of Army couldn't change it. I said, okay, boss, forget it, leave it. So then for 3 months I was getting bored at home, and I said, कुछ तो करना है. So I first went to a college, RV college,
and you never worked in L&T, right?
No.
Okay, so you were able to stare at your wife. That wasn't an issue.
Yes.
But you could not beyond 3 months.
Where?
You couldn't stare at your wife beyond 3 months.
You get bored, no? See, सुबह उठ के क्या करना है? Paper तो पढ़ लिया. So from beginning to end, I knew everybody. Obviously, I was reading from the paper, right from the top to bottom. So then I decided we should do something. First, I tried one college called RV College, a top Bangalore college. They said, sir, we don't have thermal branch. We don't want to waste you for teaching BTech. You should be teaching MTech or PhD. We don't have that branch here. So there, the person suggested there is a thing called MS Ramaiah School of Advanced Studies where they teach only MTechs. And there they have, automobile aerodynamics group and all that. So I went and joined them. I met the director. He said, yes, we will take you. I said, see, he said, no. I know you worked in Kannada, that's more than enough for me. But he said, I can't pay your salary. I said, no, that part of the life is done. Now you pay me whatever you pay your other professors, because I don't want to create disaffection there. So that's, I stayed there. I taught about automobile aerodynamics for about 1.5 years. Then I again got bored. I said, sir, we have to start aerospace aircraft. What will you do? I said, I'll start aircraft design. Oh, aircraft design, how? I said, sir, I spent 6 months in that. I have all the notes written in my hand. I will design a course where we teach conceptual design of aircraft to an MTech level. He said, that's a good idea. But I said, you may get only 5 or 6 students. He said, that you don't bother. That is my headache. Tu karna hai to kar. You do. We'll run it for 2-3 years. If it doesn't work, we'll shift. That part is not your headache. Your headache is what you teach and how do you teach, because I have no clue. None of my team members have any clue. So
you had complete autonomy in that sense.
Complete autonomy. He was a very visionary. He said,
who is this again? Sorry?
His name is Dr. Shankpal. S.R. Shankpal. He was part of the MS Ramaiah group for a long time. He started the School of Advanced Studies for MSc. It used to be called MSc, tied up with Coventry University in UK, another university well known for automobile research.
And is this a university that is government funded, or it comes
No, at
from the
that time it
family?
was only a school.
School. It came from the family then.
Yeah, came from family. And then after 2-3 years of that, around they got a permission to start a university, private university, fully private and fully authorized by the Karnataka government, act in the assembly. It's not a deemed university, it's a regular university like Mysore University, Madras University, Mumbai University, Pune University. This is MS Ramaiah University.
But a private university.
Private university, and we had engineering college, dental college, hotel management college, and management. So engineering was the biggest. So I was the dean for that.
And that's where you had your, all of this is advanced in a way, right? So this is not bachelor's, this is next master's.
But then they realized, Khali advanced enough students won't be there, money will not be there. So they said BTech bhi karenge. So they started BTech.
In aeronautical only. Okay.
That came later. Again, that is my needling. So I started vanilla courses.
Right. And you were a dean for everything.
Yes, all in engineering faculty. That was the largest.
Correct.
And this number of students were large and all that, 1,200, 1,300 students. Dental is limited by the government. No, so 20 students or something they can take. Hotel management always used to have 11 or 12. They are training chefs and all that. There's no way I would have been of any use there. So this we ran for some time, and then they said, look, MTech is running well. MTech Electronic Design. We need BTech. And they said, no, we just started only 2.5 years, this, that, and all that. I kept on talking to him. Finally, one day, 10 o'clock in the night, he called and said, Sariyappa, start madu. Mundina varsha madana. Come back with a syllabus. So I said, we will not do BTech Aeronautics because that's there everywhere. We'll do BTech Aerospace.
What's the difference?
Difference is aeronautics means anything which flies within the atmosphere, where there is air. Space could be rockets, could be missiles. Of course, missiles also could travel inside the atmosphere, but they don't depend on the atmospheric air.
Okay.
Okay. For example, you fire a missile at an aircraft that carries its own oxygen, everything. It doesn't depend on the atmosphere. There's slight difference. That's all. And any rocket you want to launch beyond the atmosphere, it's space. Space also includes orbital mechanics and whole lot of.
Correct.
So finally, we started that in 2017. BTech Aerospace. We said, you started everything, but if you teach me and go, what will happen? I said, no, first batch until it graduates, I am not going.
That's 4 years commitment.
Yeah. He knew that I was not going to change for money because I had never once asked him about salary. I never once even discussed that. Because I said, education institution, whatever was being paid, I just once jokingly said, you are paying me less than the tax I was paying when I was in jail. He just laughed and said, yeah, I know. So I started in that entire Ramaiah group, aeronautics or aerospace wasn't there. I started first aircraft design, then BTech Aerospace Engineering in the university.
And how many students eventually?
BTech Aerospace, we got permission, government sanction for about, I think, 60. Always about 45, 50 will be there.
It's a sizable number.
Yeah. Of course, computer science is 60 were given, then 120, 180.
Yeah.
So around 21, I did not want to be the dean because it's a headache. The headache was that I have to check every department's question paper, ensure it's not too tough, review the question paper, and then look at all the marks and decide whether this staff member is too strict, not strict, itna fail ho gaya. There are a lot of people fail, they will not come. And I cannot dilute.
Exam paper is tough or not? What's the parameter?
No, that is based on your own experience.
Okay.
But I would
because it's a combination of what is taught,
yes,
plus the students' aptitude, right?
Yes. So many times I have asked him, how would you explain this yourself?
And if the teacher is only struggling, then that means correct.
That is so. That is, and I finally. He said, no, sir, I don't have anybody else in your stature. That time, once you become university, you come under University Grants Commission rules. So that came to my help. After 65 years age, you cannot hold administrative post. So much, yeah.
Again, that 1 year came back to help you.
Yeah, this time it helped
you.
So I became simply a professor. So started teaching all that. Then I started, new subjects, electives, these, that, and all kinds of things. Full freedom.
Correct.
So finally, in December 21, I said too much, getting tired, because if I teach a subject, teaching is not an issue. There are 60 students. I had to conduct 2 tests, so 120 test papers to correct. And then I have a final exam, and then I have to do projects with them. It becomes a huge thing. And I was teaching 3-4 subjects at every semester. So it started telling on my physique, fatigue and all that. So December 21, I said,
enough. And it was 70 an age, or you could have continued if you wanted? How
no, I could have continued. Even now, whenever there is a conference or workshop, they call me. People come and say, "Why don't you come as adjunct
advisor?" Yeah, correct.
I said, enough of done. Too much of work is being done. Enough. No, okay. You guys continue.
अब तुम्हारे हवाले.
Yeah.
यूनिवर्सिटी साथियों.
तुम्हारे हवाले वतन.
यूनिवर्सिटी साथियों, कोर्स साथियों.
So that is, but that period, over 12 years, I think 2009 to 2021, was very fruitful. Very, you could say job satisfaction was very good. Interacting with the young staff members to train them to do this kind of thing, and that time students, interacting with students, everything. So I was, you can say, more hands-on. So when the air show was there, I took all the students to the air show. They paid for the ticket, but I took them, then we went and I explained to them why.
Correct. First-hand explanation.
What this was looking like. And at that time, the aircrafts, where you could approach them, not very close, but at this distance, for example, F-22 standing or a Sukhoi is standing, you can say, okay, look at that. This is what is there. This is the reason it is there. There's the reason it's there. So 2 years I took them, 2 air shows. Now I think that's become a standard. Now somebody else goes with them and explains to them.
Fantastic. So lot of what you learned, in a way, you were able to give back.
Yes.
To the students, and as you had mentioned in the first episode as well, that the notes that you had taken, I don't know if you ever had, did you have this thought that this will be useful for such a reason? Or?
No, I wrote it down at that point of time because that was the job I had. So again, to quote Mankuti, I may not quote it fully, somebody may find a mistake. Iruva ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನು ಮಾಡು ಮನವಿಟ್ಟು and ಬಂದಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಪ್ರಸಾದ ಅಂತ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸು. ಕರೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಡಿ ಗೊಣಗದೆ ಅಳದೆ. ಕರೆ ಬಂದಾಗ means end of story. Mankutima. Everything he ends with
Mankutima, correct.
So that was the job at that time. So I was full headlong into that. So job at GM, headlong into that. Because you finally you have to justify yourself why you're getting a salary, and you have to justify getting a salary.
Correct. So this has happened. So this is you started working in 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and you touched this decade as well. I see that one trend that I'm noticing is that whatever job you start kind of transcends into a next decade. So now the teaching has transcended into this decade. What does this decade look like for you? You're back to being at the point where you're sitting at home. You're getting bored. We know that.
So initially, I did 3 or 4 YouTube videos on questions which my students had asked. At that time, even after retirement, they would some of them came home and talked to me, and some of them asked questions, and that kind of thing. So I did that. Then I was fooling around with Excel. I suddenly said, you can use Excel for some serious work. For example, sorry. A rocket has 3 stages, and each stage has a certain mass. Okay, overall mass is there, M total, M1, M2, M3. So the satellite I want to launch, let's say it's MSAT. For given that MSAT, what should be the total mass I can minimize? And for that, how do I distribute M1, M2, and M3? See, this staging was a problem solved by a Russian scientist called Tsiolkovsky, I think. He said, the velocity increment depends on the final mass and the initial mass, and the kind of propellant you use. So if I have a single rocket from stage 1 there, halfway through you are carrying dead weight, the burnt structure. So you have to throw it out. So that is why satellites are staged 1, 2 and 3.
Okay.
Right? So that's why you throw them out.
Yeah.
So best way I explained to students in those days when I was teaching is that let's say you're going trekking and you have to carry 10 liters of water. You can have one big tank 10 liters and carry on your back. Well, halfway through also you're still carrying the tank weight. Instead, you carry 2 5-liter ones. Once 5 liters is done, you throw it off.
Throw it off. Yeah.
That weight reduction is there.
Linear and
it doesn't matter in trekking, but the concept is same.
correct.
But then, what should be the mass of the first stage compared to second and third? I said, I can do this in Excel. So there's a way to optimize it and say, okay, if I do this, and this will be the minimized weight of the rocket.
And sorry if I missed this, but you did this in Excel. What is traditionally used to do this?
No, it's actually a very complex problem.
Okay.
Okay. To show that this can be done, this has an impact on the total weight is what I did.
Right. Okay.
Okay. For example, people may say, why not have only one single stage? Why not have two, all three equal, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? No. There is a reason why it is changing. Okay. And you can use this. This is just a demo.
Correct.
Right? You say this, you change this. How do I do it? I could have used a complex algorithm, but that is built into Excel, which is there. Everybody has no license.
So you can leverage it before you go into saying you want something more expensive,
more accurate
software. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
I did those kind of videos.
Yeah, this kind of videos, and then also when you launch a rocket, it goes straight up. And I think I mentioned it once that if you want to put something around orbit around the Earth, minimum velocity should be 8 kilometers per second. Anything less than that, it will deteriorate and fall down. And as you go further away, different velocities. So that's a very simple explanation. When things are going round, there is a centrifugal force, mv squared by r. There is mg retraction, m cancels out. Height, v, done. So again, how does it work? So two ways you can do. Go straight up, then turn, because I have to go around, no? That is not a very efficient thing to do. So what is done is called a gravity turn. You don't launch it vertically, just 1 degree. So when it goes, the Earth itself is pulling it down. So you are using Earth's gravitational field to turn, make it this. So this again, I did something with Python language and then put it in the video and said, okay, you can do this. These are all textbook stuff only. But instead of equations and new programming, you use whatever is there. Yeah. Python is open source. Excel is free anyway. So there are other open source software which I keep dabbling in. So made a couple of videos, and for example, how to estimate the weight of an aircraft. For Tejas, what we had done, similar thing, I made that into a video. It's for students only. Some 50-60 guys view it and they will benefit. But I am doing this for
because you are feeling creatively satisfied.
Yes,
absolutely.
My own fun.
Your own fun. So that has been a fabulous journey. Like I mentioned at the start as well, from being a potential Nepo kid. I'm using it only because it's they use that as an in word, but potentially you did have inroads into the movie industry.
Yes.
But then you charted your own path. And what I found fascinating here is that how at every point you gave the example of Mankutimmana Kagga. Sorry, but that seems to be your philosophy, that whatever comes your way, you are being guided in some direction and you have taken that risk and you have gone in that direction.
Yes.
But let's lighten this up a little bit. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you in a rapid manner.
Okay.
So you have to give a rapid answer.
Right.
And this will transgress a few things. It's not only in one direction, but this will also help us understand a bit more about you. From the sounds of it, you have probably spent time only in two cities primarily, right? Chennai and Bangalore.
Yes.
So Chennai or Bangalore?
Bangalore.
Bangalore. Okay. Tamil or Kannada?
Kannada.
Kannada. But I have to correct you there. Your favorite go-to play shows are always Tamil.
That's
or
because
movies.
when you're a kid, my father's decision. He said, "Look, you are going to learn Tamil anyway because in Chennai you cannot survive that." Manayal Kannada maatadade. So instead of taking Tamil as Kannada, no school in Chennai offered Kannada as a language anywhere that time, probably even now. So take the national language Hindi.
Ah, okay.
That's how my Hindi was my second language, and Tamil became the language of lingua franca, as they call it.
Yeah,
people
on the street. Yeah, correct.
But Kannada is mother tongue.
Okay, so we stand corrected then.
Yeah.
I always thought that you would have probably answered this as Tamil.
My wife thought I was a Tamilian too.
Because you'd hang out around Tamil friends mostly.
No, all the guys came from Chennai. See, in MIT, there's again interesting thing. In third year, during the farewell party, our professor, head of the department, came and asked me, "You know how you got selected?" I said, "Good enough, you selected me." That part of it. Then he said, "Look, as a department, we had a policy to take one non-Tamilian, one guy from outside the Tamil Nadu. So on paper, you are a Mysore University student. In reality, you are as much a Tamilian as
any of these."
So our requirement filled, and so that kind of hurt my ego. But anyway, that's true, because I remember everybody else had much better grades than me in BSc.
So it's not an exact fit for this, but somewhat, as the Hindi saying goes, saap bhi mara aur lati bina tuti, something like that. All right, so we are happy that you said Kannada, but somehow I thought you would be saying Tamil there. Researcher or professor?
Professor now, because wherever I work, there are lots of PhDs. I have lost the I can say glamour of being doctor in Narahari. Professor looks a little more decent. So I would prefer to be called professor rather than doctor.
And you find that more fulfilling as well?
Yes, definitely more fulfilling. Interacting with people and clarifying their doubts. And sometimes coming up with innovative ways to explain to them what I mean. That takes some time. Yeah. So that's where I see videos by eminent scientists. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate in physics. He is an excellent person to explain things. And his videos are there. He wrote, he didn't write actually, he delivered lectures at Cornell. So some students prepared the entire lecture as 3 books, on physics, lectures on physics. So some of the ideas I borrowed from him and others. So that way I try to...
You're able to continually innovate and improve.
Answer the students.
Fair enough. Grandfather or father?
Grandfather, I never met father. I mean, as
No. As you as...
grandfather, definitely.
Grandfather, okay. I think the grandkids will also agree. Now, this is a tricky one. Let's see how we answer this. Which is the best food that you enjoy? बीवी के हाथ का या बेटी के हाथ का? आज खाना कौन दे रहा है वो याद रखो.
मरवाने की ये सवाल तो मरवाया.
हाँ, बिल्कुल उसके लिए पूछा है.
बीवी का खाना.
ओके.
क्योंकि बीवी ने बेटी को सिखाया ना.
वाह, ये है. देखो, ससुर होते हैं एट द एंड ऑफ द डे. परफेक्ट आंसर. Okay, and I think ये बेटी भी आपकी इसको agree करेगी कि भाई what she has learned through her mother. So
what new she does, I like misal and all that. My wife doesn't do. But I like that. The pasta we never did before. I like that. But the food.
But like they say, the basics of cooking is more important. Then what you learn is just new things.
Yes.
So that basics is something that your wife has taught, or my mother-in-law has taught.
Any day I would prefer eating at home, whether here or in...
Absolutely. Okay. Last one in this series. Corporate world or public sector? You have worked in both the areas.
I would say corporate world.
You like that better?
Yeah, because there was a goal, and when you showed them results, they supported you full-fledged. In public sector, sometimes, I was lucky in ADA, because the director was a very open-minded person who supported people, who never tried to take anybody's credit and all that. But generally, I've seen other places, public sector, you come up with an idea, your boss gets the promotion. In private sector, mein wo nahi hota hai. At least the ones where I have seen.
But has public sector changed, or based on your perception, still the
Some
same?
of them have changed. For example, ISRO has changed. That's why they're successful. ALA initially changed. They are successful. HAL now slowly being changed. Saying now you would have seen that in the government of India has formed a committee to reorganize DRDO to make it more goal oriented or end oriented.
So, okay. So that ends our rapid fire. Sometimes, when this helps us get a very quick perspective, and that we did. Mostly expected answers, but very smartly answered ones as well. Smartness तो कूट कूट के भरा है, वो दिखता है, वो समझ में आता है. So that was expected. Coming back to our conversation, now that you have walked through and told us about how your journey has taken shape over the years, there are a few things that come to my mind that I want to ask you, also knowing you at a personal level. One thing I've always observed is that regardless of who is in the room, be it a 7-year-old child or a teenage or learned, doesn't matter, you find a way to converse or interact with them. In other words, I'm also trying to say that you seem to know something about everything. How does that happen? Is that an interest, or is that the researcher in you?
Probably a researcher in me. I wouldn't consider it as a great asset. It's just that it's there. This part has already been pointed out to me even in the university. 2-3 staff members have come and told me individually. So whenever there is an external person, and they usually, they come and ask some episode and say, do you know? And they used to turn to me and I would answer. One example I'll give you. One person from US, he was saying his story about a sculptor who made a sculpture of a thing, and it was posted on a lamp which was 50 feet high. And the sculptor was not happy. He did not want it to be unveiled. Everybody said, why is perfect? He said, no, that left hand something is wrong. Nobody would notice. Who knows that? Why was he? I said, but he knows. Usne kiya. So he was surprised that I could answer that, and the staff members are all smiling because they knew I would come out with it. And I said, why are you guys saying that? He said, sir, whenever somebody comes in, you seem to answer that. I said, that's because I have seen more Christmases than you have. That's all. I've been around a long time. I've met different kind of management guys. So I am interested in it. I respect the person in front.
Correct. No, but I appreciate that. But what I also feel is that there is a genuine, you have an ability to kind of absorb things fast, is what I've noticed. I don't know, it's like which one came first wala thing. Is it because you had this habit, you made it as a researcher and a PhD, or because you're that you have this more, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But you have an ability to absorb things very fast and retain. It's a combination of both. You absorb, you retain, and then you reproduce, right? So sometimes you may not have the ability to absorb at all. If you absorb, you may not have the ability to retain. And if you retain, you may not have the ability to reproduce. So you do all three of those together.
It's not something which I need to be proud of, because that is what it is.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Fair enough.
So it's not something which I can claim, I do this. Something you can say God given or nature given or whatever.
Absolutely. One more thing I wanted to ask you is, you already answered about the corporate and the public sector, but if you can just double click a bit more, because most of us, who are probably reading this or relating to this, are all in the corporate sector for most part. We probably might not have many in the public sector world, but since you have worked in both, what did you find? You talked about the good in corporate world, but what was probably the not so good part, and likewise what was a good part in the public sector world?
In the public sector, they get really challenging problems, like the entire Tejas light combat aircraft. I cannot see a private sector ever taking that kind of job. High risk and high technical content. The private sector is more about quick turnover of profits, return, quick returns. So they would rather, for example, without taking them, there is a big company in India which makes toilet doors for Airbus.
Okay.
That's their unique selling point. Toilet doors, for God's sake. Why not do something more important? Let's say landing gear, or the flap, or active part. Nah.
That's all they do. But your journey obviously has been extremely fruitful because you made it from there to here. Of course, I'm not discounting, or probably you being a PhD is a bigger reason in this. But you made your way from there to here. Do you know of anyone who's made their way from here to there, corporate to public sector, and successful in it?
I only after retirement they may no. I don't remember anybody.
That's what I felt as well. It seems more like a
one-way street. It will be frustrating. If you go from here to there, it will be frustrating.
It seems like a one-way street. Correct. So I want to ask this as a question. I'm a bit hesitant to ask, but I think the best way is to ask it direct. Scientists, I've noticed that they are very they see science as a first, right? Which is okay, nothing wrong in it. But then I also see that they sometimes don't seem to think religion or God or anything. Why is that? Is that something how your brain starts thinking after a while, or is there could be anything else for that?
I think that is the wrong way to think of it. I'll give you a little more philosophical answer.
Sure.
Okay. There was this philosophical movement called rationalism. It's not the rationalism what we say here, where they go break idols and no. And the rationalism started, if I remember right, by a mathematician called Descartes, Spinoza, and another guy. They were saying that whatever is there should be a cause and effect. Rationalism only means use logic to see it. Everything should be logically explainable. It's not that they were atheists. No, they were not atheists. They were saying that if you are doing a ritual, is there a reason for it? Then do it. Look for the reason. So that is the rationalism they talked about.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then came this philosopher called Immanuel Kant. He wrote a famous book called On the Critique of Reason. On the Critique of Pure Reason. I have not read of it because first thing is in German and second thing is very difficult to read. But the gist is, not everything is susceptible to logic and reason. There are some things which are inexplicable by logic. So that is the empirical thing. So that is where the problem is. Some things, for example, science can never explain everything anytime. See, the problem with all this question, many of the scientists are not really scientists fully. If you really go deeper and deeper in science, more deeper than me, you'll realize there are things which science only says how. Science never says why. If two objects are there, they attract each other, m1, m2 by r square, gm, that's how. Why should they attract each other? That's not part of science.
You take it because that's how it is.
Yes. Right. Okay. The whole science thing is based on what is called axiomatic research. There are certain things which you cannot prove, but you can verify. So you take that as truth. Based on that, you develop everything else, and then all of that should be verifiable. But the basis you cannot prove. For example, Newton's 3 laws of motion, you cannot prove. You can verify. Laws of thermodynamics, you cannot prove. You can verify. Right? This is one thing. Then came I think it's Gödel, who came with a theorem called incompleteness, theorem of incompleteness, complex mathematical theorem. Just is, any finite axiomatic set is incomplete. So it means that if I have 3 axioms, most you think you'll explain, but there will be something which is not explainable by you. You need
something else, right?
So if it is finite means 10,000, 20,000, whatever number, or as your son says, a billion axioms, still it is not complete.
Correct.
So it is proved mathematically that axiomatic set is incomplete. So he did it in the mathematical sense. But you can see that, say, initially Newton's three laws of motion were great, until he himself found that is not enough. He came with gravitational theory. Then finally find that no, that is only approximation. You have relativity theory. Then find there is a problem, and then it's a general theory of relativity, and then you find that quantum mechanics is totally different from that.
Correct.
So science can never explain everything. Okay, to look down on religion, I think is stupid. Again, I'll give you an example of what Dr. Kalam said in the first, successful launch, SLV3, first launch itself. Three of them were there. He and another person, two other persons. He said, I was doing namaz, my friend was reading the Bible, and the other person was quoting from Bhagavad Gita. All three rocket scientists doing this before the launch.
Correct.
Okay, so science is different, religion is different. What you should ask is, some of the rituals don't make sense. Some of them had come for a reason, but the reason is obscure. You have forgotten that.
Correct.
So again, there is a story which philosophers say. A long time ago, there was a Gurukula, and the Guru and the Guru Patni were there with some kids teaching, and the Guru Patni had a cat, her pet. So during puja, the cat would disturb. So what she would do is tie the cat, and because she is a kind-hearted person, her husband also said, keep some milk there for the cat till the puja is done. After that, you can do whatever you want. So the students have observed this. The Guru died, Guru Mata died after some time. One of the students became the Guru. Then for him, he said, puja means you have to have a cat. Go bring a cat, tie it, feed milk for it, and do the puja. So this is how many of these things have come.
Correct. That's how tradition.
So my dad used to say, when you, in olden days, you used to sit on floor and eat. We were kids, we were in floor. But our floor was cement floor. Olden days, it was mud floor, maybe washed with cow dung. So you would have insects and ants crawling in. So maybe they came with this water around the leaf.
Correct.
To prevent it. And being kind, we also keep some things there for the insects or ants to eat. So he used to say, why are you doing it on a dining table? So this is
so it's the scientific mind, and by scientific mind I don't mean to say only scientists, because everybody will have that scientific mind, where you are questioning the reasoning behind it. If you are doing something, if you now that could be a point where probably some people may have differing views, is that you may still do it if you, even when you have not understood the meaning, whereas others may say, I will not do it till I understand the meaning. So that's a personality.
That's where I am differing.
Correct.
Not everything is understandable.
Correct.
But koshish to karo.
Right. To understand. Absolutely. Right. Thank you for answering the question that way and clarifying the thing. The reason was also stemming from a fact that, because in public image also you see that, there are a lot of learned people who seem to shun, what the culture or tradition was. And my only point is that not everything that our culture teaches is necessarily wrong.
No.
What you need is adaptation with time.
Yes.
Which you are very well within your limits. Don't take anything blindly.
Yes.
So, totally.
Some things would have come for a reason. For example, some other things, like in marriage, they show you some stars. And surprisingly, that's a twin star combination, one rotating around the other. And they are saying husband and wife should be like that. So those stars are not visible to the naked eye. How on earth did they know this was a twin star and this is what you should use as an example for a married couple? Somebody would have known
all this. Correct.
And I always tell people that our view of the world is based on our five senses.
Correct.
Maybe some of the rishis had more senses than one more additional one. Maybe they had more.
That's going in a different direction, but I hear what you're saying. Maybe their powers that they generated through their meditation and so on and so forth is what really gave them that. All right. With that, I'll come back to this. I'll come back to where this conversation all the way started from. You come from a family where, which was in the film industry or the Kannada industry. Are you still in touch? No, I don't mean with the industry, but I mean with movies in general. Do you watch movies? Do you enjoy movies?
Yes, I watch movies a lot. And there is an organization which conducts every year some small gift prizes in recognition of people.
Correct.
Okay. In my father's name, for the best dialogues of the movie, I have instituted an award. So I pay them 10,000 rupees. They call them, and then the usual shawl and peta and
Correct. Which is
just a recognition.
Correct.
I've done that thing. I watch movies and I try to understand the reason, technology, how some of these things have happened. And you would see that some of the olden days movies, they used rudimentary technologies, still managed to get fantastic results. I don't know if you have seen the movie Ben-Hur, the original Ben-Hur. There is a full-fledged chariot race, a full-fledged stadium full of all people dressed like Romans. And chariot race, my God, you should watch it in your big screen. And they had placed, I'm told, 64 cameras to capture, because there is only once in a lifetime you can do that.
Wow.
And they knew accidents will happen. So there were paramedics dressed as Roman soldiers running and picking up people in stretchers. And then there is a movie called 10 Commandments. In that, it's again Moses' story. He goes and puts a staff on the sea, and the entire sea parts.
You have to create.
There was a time when there were no computers, no graphics, no VFX. Correct. God knows how they did it. You can see people going in, chariots going into that thing, and then when the Egyptians come, that water closes, you see hundreds of horses floating in water. How did they do that? I always wondered how on earth they do that.
That's the skill. That's and to our point where the conversation started, you have to have that brain which is constantly looking for jugards of how to make it happen.
Yes, I remember in one time I went to shooting. There were pieces of mirror kept under the camera in the song, in Appan picture. So there, in the movie, you see the lady is dancing on a lake because reflection is there. This is a stupid mirror kept under the camera.
They've learned the technique of how to make that happen. And in today's world, I mean, I'm not saying that there's any less innovation in the world of AI. If anything, it's more. But all these things seem to have become easy for them, whereas they used such ingenious techniques in those days to make it happen.
Yes. I don't know if you have seen the movie Gone with the Wind. There's a scene of a platform. Literally hundreds of corpses are lying on the ground. And there was one person connected with 5 or 6 dummies with thread. His job, when they say action, is to randomly shake those dummies. So you will see hundreds of people struggling on the platform, but there are only few guys. So
necessity teaches.
So my interest in movies is
observing all these things. Beautiful. So in today's world, then, do you see someone, and you don't have to limit to Kannada industry, but do you see someone who reminds you of your father in terms of his genius behind the camera, or whichever way?
I don't know who is a lyricist and a director, actor, producer.
Again, as like I said, Gulzar is the only name that comes to me.
Yes.
But in today's world, I don't know.
I don't think he acted.
He did not act. Yes, you're right. He did not act.
No, my father acted in the olden days. Again, necessity.
Correct.
Karna hai to karna hai.
Karna hai. So I also believe the same. It probably seems like once in a lifetime that people like this came and existed. Fantastic. We are getting to the end of this, so 1 or 2 more questions only. The creative bug seems to have slipped at least 1 generation for sure, or 2 generations in this instance. But let's say that, all things being equal, if there was a chance, did you see anyone following in your father's footsteps amongst the immediate? I'm not talking of your extended cousins and all, but
I can see parts of that in Maithili and certainly in Ritwik. These two may end up with.
And not in your siblings, did you feel anybody had that creative part in a way?
The creative part is different. If you're in movie, no.
Movie is
creative part, everybody has something or other.
Something or the other, yeah.
So every man comes with a gift, right? And that gift is something which you have to find. As I said earlier, iruva kelasava maadu.
That you have to
ಕರೆದಾಗ
keep
ಅಳದು
doing.
ಹೋಗು.
Correct.
ಮನವಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಇರೋ ಕೆಲಸ. If I can do is, I do it as full-fledged.
Fair enough. The other, this is literally probably the last question I'm going to ask is, when you look back at your career where you have done so many things, over a period of 40-45 years of your working career, if you had a chance to say that, there is only one career that you have to choose now and do that for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? And then the follow-on question is, which one would you not choose as? So both.
I would certainly choose what I did in ADA.
That would be the one you definitely want to keep doing.
I wouldn't want to go back to IT.
Fair enough. I think
maybe I was unfortunate in the kind of IT projects. They were very, very profitable. It's a NASDAQ company. All that was there. But the kind of...
but it didn't interest you. That's absolutely fine.
See, I had one team whose only job was to, change systems from Windows 3 to Windows 10. Something like that. So he'll go there, reformat the disk and load this disk, and that's it.
Yeah. So there is a lot of mundane, repetitive work that people do have to do.
And people used to come back and say, I don't want to do it anymore.
And probably in the advent of AI, a lot of these things might disappear, but there'll be a new set of work that will get created, which is repetitive in its own way. So I think absolutely. Fantastic. Just one last question. What next? So what is this decade going to look like in terms of what new is going to come your way?
Maybe I'll continue making some more YouTube videos. Jab tak ho sake.
Yes. I was about to suggest the same thing, that you should really do that. And of course, you're doing that in the area or the interest that you have, which is fantastic. You should do that. But I would also say that please explore putting some of these nuggets that you have of what you have learned, from your father growing up, his own art. Please do put that out also. There is a lot of need for it. There are people who are interested a lot. Like I told you, my inclination is almost always towards the Hindi industry first. But a lot of kids of legendary fathers are doing that. And there is a lot of demand for it.
Yeah,
so I would sincerely urge you to put something on Tata's name.
Sure, I'll try to do that. How I do it and when I do it, we'll think about it.
Absolutely. And today is a world of shorts, so you don't have to do long points. You can just put out a point which is a 2-3 minute one and put that out, and that's how you can put it.
Just now you mentioned, okay, let me start with this. In this movie called Bangalore, which ran for a year and a half, one of the most successful movies in Kannada with Rajkumar and Bharati and all that. The entire story starts with death. So they think Rajkumar is studying in the city, he's going to get degree, and when he comes back, he finds his brother-in-law who funded him is dead. So the story starts with the death. So that was the, it's called Ashum or whatever. So apparently my father suggested we can come with a song. In the song, I'll prepare the mind towards death.
So what is coming?
So in that song, it comes and then that is that Nagu Naguta Nali Nali.
Beautiful song.
And then he says, first, as a baby in your mother's lap, and then you're a kid playing with your friend, then you get grown up, you get married, and this, and then finally age old.
Correct.
Peru Perina Jivana.
Correct.
And then finally the next step is death.
Correct.
So that song will subconscious preparation towards death in that movie. So these kind of things happen in movies where they do this. They may not publicize it, but this kind of things happen.
Yeah, and these backstories are really what makes it interesting, which helps us get into the psyche of the creator in a way. So on that note, I would like to conclude our podcast, and thank you so very much for spending the time with us, walking through this interesting journey. Doing a podcast is not rocket science, folks, but the beauty is that I get to talk to rocket scientists. So that's the part I enjoy the most.
I think rocket science is kind of overhyped. I don't know why. It is as good as any other science. But anyway, people take it as that.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to our dear viewers, thank you so much for your support. We conclude another podcast with our TheCoolkarnis, and in the next episode, we'll enjoy and listen to the journey of some other Coolkarnis. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.